All right, now we're continuing in the Dvar Malchut. This is a speech that the Lubavitcher Rebbe gave in 1991, and he's talking about the same topic that we've been talking about of this Metzora. Here he's talking about speaking about it, but in much more, how do you say, positive and practical terms. Let's say practical terms. Okay, so here we go. We're up to here. This is where we got up to. So what again? What is the Rebbe talking about? The Rebbe is talking about the whole. That's the whole topic of Chabad Hasidut in general. Mashiach. That's the whole topic of Judaism. That's the whole topic of the creation of the world. Why God created the world was only that Mashiach should come. What's Mashiach is going to be a person that's going to educate the whole world, to show how precious we are in God's eyes. That's why God is creating us. It says that one of the reasons God is creating us, the main reason God is creating us is to serve Him, to perfect the world, to make the world a perfect place. And if we're not doing it, so then God sends what's called Negoim to remind us, to put us back. But the Negoim, these, what is this, plagues or whatever it is, it's just a mask that God is putting on to show us that we have to fix ourselves up. There was yesterday, I understand there was an eclipse in America, right? An eclipse. So the Rebbe had a speech about eclipse, but there was also it's mentioned in the Gemara. The main thing about an eclipse is that the sun doesn't change. The sun doesn't change. The sun is still shining, and nothing whatsoever has changed whatsoever. But just it's covered over. It's covered over temporarily, and we can see a little bit of it. But the sun is always there. So it's coming to teach us that when things cover over the good, that we should understand that the good is just being covered over. It didn't go away. Doesn't mean God doesn't exist or God doesn't care or whatever. God cares and God exists, and God is the good, and He's loving, He's light and everything. But there's some things in the world that just cover it over temporarily, and that comes to remind us that it's the same thing with us, that essentially every human being is good, and we have to search for the good inside of ourselves and also believe that there is good in others, and bring out the good in the others, because it's just like an eclipse. It's just been concealed briefly. Briefly. Okay. That's one of the meanings. That's one of the So it says that's the whole idea of the exile. The exile is Gola. Gola means exile. The God is concealed. And Geula is the same exact letters. You just have to put the aleph in it. You just have to find the good, the aleph, the or, the light, ahava, the love, inside of the Gola, inside of the exile. And that will reveal the true goodness of God. That's the idea of Mitzvah. Okay, now we can add on that we can also understand this from our Torah. The Torah teaches us everything. When the Rebbe was speaking this, the Tazria and Mitzvah were joined together. So therefore, the lesson that they have to teach was more, as I say, poignant, as that's a word. It was more stressed. But by us now, they're two separate, but still the message is still the same message. The Tazria is talking about, he said about the exile, and Metzora is talking about the Mashiach who will bring the redemption. Okay, but afterwards comes these two Torah portions. The next two portions are Achrei Mot and Kedoshim. Achrei Mot and Kedoshim. Achrei Mot is going to be the week after next, and Kedoshim is going to be the week after that. Parshas Achrei Mot, I mean, the whole Torah comes to teach us amazing, deep lessons. This is God Himself personally talking to us right now. So Torah, Tazria Metzora, we already learned a little bit about what that means. That in the exile, we have to reveal the good, right? From the eclipse, we have to reveal the light. Okay, what about Achrei Mot and Kedoshim? Achrei Mot Shabonim, it's talking about the warning, not to be a rotzoi b'li shuv. Rotzoi b'li shuv. What's rotzoi b'li shuv? Last week's Torah portion was Shmini, right? So last week's Torah portion, we learned about this terrible story that the first day that the tabernacle was open, that Aaron's two holy sons, super holy sons, Nadav and Avihu, that they ran into the Holy of Holies. They just couldn't hold themselves back. They wanted to be close to God. And Moses said it was a very holy thing that they did, but it was improper. It wasn't right. They died, but nevertheless, it showed the attitude that every Jew should have to run to God. That's called rotzei. The problem is they were missing self-control. It was an unusual type of, very high, pure type of egotism that they had. They wanted to be close to God. They wanted to totally be dissolved in the oneness of God. That's what they wanted. That desire is very good. In other words, they recognize God. They recognize how good God is. They want to be close to God. The problem is they didn't do it on God's terms. They did it on their terms. God's terms are that you want to be close to God. So half of it has to be in this world. It has to be mixed. You have to try to come close to God as much as you can when you pray and things like that. But on the rest of it has to be in the world. You have to have a family. You have to do the commandments. You have to have a job. You have to have to work to deal with other people. That's called shuv. So the Parshas Acharei Mot is talking about reminding. God reminds Moses after the death of Nadav and Avihu. Acharei means after the death. It says, don't do what they did. Rotzoi, going close to God, b'li shuv, without coming back. Kalos and Nefesh, Shnei b'nei Aaron are the two sons of Aaron, the Kervatam lifnei Hashem, because they came close to God and they died. Ele rotzei v'shuv davka, they have to be both. Neshamos, souls in bodies. That's why, by the way, the Jewish people are called Mamlechet Kohanim. They're called a nation of priests. The Jews are called a nation of priests. There's no better word in English for a Kohen, a priest. So a priest is a person that he's only thinking about God all the time. That's a priest. He's a holy person. He's not like everybody else, right? Oh, this is a priest, right? This is the priest. There's the bishop or whatever, the pope. This is a totally different person. He's holy. They don't get married. They don't get this, this. And even if they do, they're holy. They're outside of the world. They're devoted to God. They're not like us. The Jewish people are a nation of priests. We have to be a nation in the world, family, normal people, like every other nation, but of priests. We have to be totally devoted to God while we're doing the most mundane things in the world. That's what it means, rotzei, being close to God, being priests. But we have to be in the world constantly. Why? Because that's what God does. God himself is creating the world. And even more, the essence of God is in the world, what we do in the world. That's where God's essence, all the spiritual worlds are just like preparations to this world. Just like your nervous system and your circulatory system and your respiratory system are tremendously complicated. But the main thing is what you actually do in the world, right? You steal something, you can't say, but Your Honor, my respiratory system and my circulatory system are so complicated, you're going to put me into prison, right? My heart was working, my nervous system was working, everything was working, just so I stole a couple $1,000, that's just a little tiny thing like that. That was the external of my body. That's the main thing. That's the main thing, what you do, right? The same thing, all the spiritual worlds are only here for what we do in the world. So you have to be connected to the spiritual worlds. You have to be aware of the spiritual worlds. You have to be like Nadav and Avihu, connected to God, but don't be like Nadav and Avihu, that you're only connected to the spiritual. You have to be also shuv, you have to return to the world, because that's what God does. The main thing is the action. It says that on his own, davka, you have to be in both. Until Chaim Nitzchim, until finally there will be what's called eternal life in the future. The raising of the dead is what the ultimate, pure, high essence of God will be revealed where? Here in this physical world. Nogia, for instance, our generation, the lo efsek paneim. It could be the people right in our generation, they'll live forever. Chaya guf, in the physical body, because the physical body is higher than this soul. So Nadav and Avihu, they were soul people. That was wonderful. They realized that the body can be very, how do you say, deceiving. And they wanted to just leave it and go higher. They got a good point, right? But they missed the one point is that the body you shouldn't leave the body. You have to fix it up. Chaya guf, the physical body. That the soul, in the future, the soul will get nourishment from the body. That's going to be in the future. Not like now that the body is living from the soul. The soul is alive. And the soul, when a person dies, his soul goes away. In the future, it won't be that way. All the dead, the bodies, they will bring the souls back from heaven to be in the bodies. The body will be higher than the soul. This is the idea of chibur, joining together rotzai, being spiritual, beshuv, and being physical. Sha'orot elyonim, the highest lights of godliness will be drawn down and revealed in vessels in this world. And that's basically the idea of the commandments. That's the idea of the commandments. Namely, physical, actual, precise deeds that you have to do. Exactly when Shabbat comes in, exactly what is kosher, exactly what is tefillin, exactly what is a mezuzah, exactly that have to be in this physical world. That's the essence will of God. The inyan zeh nasa will be made darga nalis shelamayla mishneim. What's going to bring the spiritual permanently into the physical? A third level, which is higher than both of them. That's achremot kadoshim. That's this level of kadoshim. Shabbat, that in it says the commandment of kadoshim to you, you should be holy because I am holy. Shabiyot b'nei Yisrael, because the Jewish people in this physical world. As then it's relevant, the commandment of you have to be holy, a commandment. Have a perushim that you have to be separated from all of the urges of the world. The Jewish people in this physical world are holy. Until the highest level of holiness of God Himself. Ki ani, I am holy. Ki kadosh ani, because I'm holy. Like the rabbis say, Yochel kamoni, you can be holy like me. That's what it says. Ki kadosh I'm holy. Ki pirush hasidus, like experience, that means Yochel kamoni, you can be holy as I am. Just like God is infinitely holy and He creates the world, and most of His attention and intention is in this world, it's also the same thing. Every Jew, we're sons of God. We can be infinitely holy, but our main point is this physical world and the people that are in the world. That each and every Jew can say, Kamoni, I am God's representative in this world. Kedusha, I am holy. That's the whole thing nowadays. Everybody's arguing about the land of Israel. The land of Israel is called the Holy Land. Holy, holy, holy land. The land is holy. The Holy Land. That's our, how do you say, the winning sign, right? Winning sign. It belongs to us. We have that's the deed. What's the deed? The Torah. The Torah is holy. The Jews are holy. The land of Israel is holy. That we belong to. It doesn't belong to anybody else. Right? Holy. But we have to be holy in this physical world. Holy means above the world, and in the world means in the world. So the holy land, the land is in the world, but it's holy. Mudgash od yoter. That's the truth. This is stressed even more in the name of the Moshiach. Mashiach is a redeemer that he's called Metzora. In the Talmud, it says that the Mashiach is called Metzora. It says Metzora shel Beit Rabbi. It's called Metzora of the house of Rebbe. The Rambam also says the same thing. Beis David. Says the Mashiach is called the leper. Why is he called leper? 1 second. No. It's called a Metzora. Metzora de Rabbi. What? Yayiv Beinei, the Yasif. This is in the Talmud in Sanhedrin. We talked about it before. That he's sitting between the poor lepers over there. It says in Rome, whatever, and he's suffering diseases. Minagoyim and Vahu Nami Nagoa. All of them are lepers, and he's also going to be a leper. The Mashiach is called. It is found in this world, in a place in the time of exile. And he's found in a way of, he's also in the exile, and he suffers the sufferings of exile. The Jewish people are in exile, and the Mashiach suffers this also. Like it says in the Gemara, Omer Rav, Imin Achai, Hu Kamu Rabbeinu Kodesh. The Talmud over there says, if the Mashiach comes from the dead, then he'll be like the Daniel. If he'll be coming from the living, then he's going to be like Rabbeinu Kodesh. Rabbeinu Kodesh, he was one of the ones that his pupils raised the dead. If the Mashiach comes from those people who are alive right now, then who's going to be Rabbeinu Kodesh? Why? Because he's suffering. He's suffering all sorts of disease, and he's a tremendous chassid, is a tremendous, devoted to God. He's waiting impatiently with longing in his eyes to be revealed. Me'ahelam, from the concealment in the time of exile, the Melech Mashiach is going to come and redeem all the Jewish people with a true redemption. Like the Rambam says, Yamod Melech b'Beis David, a person is going to stand up and so a person asked the question. I saw a beautiful video from Rabbi Simon Jacobson that he was asked a question. There was a forum. Anyway, he was asked a question. The crowd was non-religious Jews. I guess that they were talking about Mashiach, whatever the subject came out about Mashiach. So one of the people in the crowd, there was like 500 non-religious Jews, and they said, "What's going to be with the non-religious Jews when Mashiach comes?" Right? And one of them said, "That doesn't make any difference." One of them said that that I heard that there's going to be another Holocaust, that the non-religious Jews are all going to get punished, like there was in the Holocaust. That was a sign of what's going to be. That people should do tshuva, and if they don't, they're going to get it. So he brought a story, and he said that the Rebbe Rashab, he was asked by one of his pupils why he places so much emphasis on the simple Jews. So he asked this chassid if he said, you work in diamonds, gems. Yes, he said, let me see some of your gems. So he showed him the gems, and the Rebbe said, I think this gem is the most expensive, right? He says, Rebbe, that's the nicest. You're right. It's big. It's really nice. But this is by far not the most expensive one. This one is. He said, you don't. He said, the Rebbe said, well, you understand gems, so you know what's his best. I understand Jews. I understand that the simple Jews are in a way much more valuable than the complicated Jews, than the big Talmidei Chachamim. Why? How can that be? The purpose of Judaism is to learn Torah, because Judaism has to come from simplicity. Even the biggest Talmidei Chacham says the Mashiach is going to make the tzaddikim do tshuva. The essence of Judaism is that we don't understand anything. We can't possibly understand what is God. What do you mean God chose us? God gave us a book called the Torah. God gave us the commandments. Anybody understands this? This is totally beyond comprehension. The biggest genius, King David said, Ani behemoth, I'm like an animal with you. Therefore, I'm with you. We understand this. It's just a pure miracle that God is keeping us alive. And he's chosen, he gave us the Torah. This is that he creates the world every second. We don't understand this. If Torah and the commandments are done from that attitude, that everything we have and everything we are comes from the Creator, and we're showing our gratitude, simple gratitude to the Creator, how good he is, and loving God and fearing God, just from the simple gratitude that, it's just a miracle that God, a gift that God is creating me. And that's the most amazing, that's what Mashiach is going to do. Mashiach is going to bring out the simple essence of every Jew and wake it up. Then Jews are going to do Torah and the commandments for the right reason, and they'll all do the Torah and the commandments, not because of fear or because of reward or punishment, because it's just the truth. And I'd say God gives us everything for free, so let's do something for him for free. We'll do the commandments. That's what Mashiach is going to do. That's what it means. He's going to raise the dead. He's going to show how important simplicity is. That's really all there is. And for some reason, understandable, to God, it's more important if a simple person does one good deed than if all the angels are screaming holy and they're all burning up and everything, because that's what they're not making a choice. That's what God decided. Why he decided this? So therefore, the whole thing of going to heaven and going to hell, that's God's business. God will choose. There's a saying among the Hasidim that all the Hasidim, the Hasidic Chabad, they're all going to go to hell. They're all going to go to hell. Why? Because we knew what we're supposed to do, and we read the Hasidut, we understand, and we didn't do it. And if we did it, we didn't do it with the proper attitude. We didn't have this upper love of God. We didn't do it, right? So therefore, it's like the Nagoyim, right? You try to get some sort of a level of purity. What do you get? You get a plague. You get a plague to remind us what's good. Okay, all this is nice philosophies and everything, but Jews are suffering, and I'm not trying to explain that. Do not accuse me of even attempting to explain the pain of the Jewish people. Even one Jewish person, even the biggest so-called sinner of the Jewish people, don't accuse me of that, because I'm not trying to explain anybody's pain or suffering or whatsoever. Okay. Omer Lael, like I said before, Kashur im Perek Sheni, this is also, okay, so that's what we said. Achri Mot, Kadoshim, after death, when there's unified the body and the soul, and realizing the body is higher than the soul, where does this come from? From Kadoshim, a level which is higher than both of them. This is also attached to Pirkei Avot, Perek Sheni. Like I said, when the Rebbe gave this speech, this was always after Passover. It's a custom by religious Jews that between Passover and Shavuot, 7 weeks, so they say another one of the chapters of Pirkei Avot, the 6 chapters of Pirkei Avot, and we start 1 week after, so it ends up 6 chapters. And a lot of Hasidim, Chabad also, a lot of Jews, they say until Rosh Hashanah. So they go over it several times. Anyway, the 2nd chapter of Pirkei Avot, the ethics of the fathers, or the lessons of the fathers, the chapters of the fathers that we learn on this Shabbat, it begins, Rebbe Omer, Rebbe said, what is a straight way that the Mashiach should come? Anything which is pleasant, beautiful to the one who is doing it, and other people are also pleased by it. That's a good way to serve the creator of the universe. That's what it says. That's Ezehu Derech Yeshar. What is the straight way, a proper way that a person should choose to live his life? Anything which is pleasing, beautiful to him, and pleasing from others. Others are pleased by it. It's beautiful. Okay, let's see. Here we go. Ready? Behekdem. First of all, what does it say in this Mishnah? What is the straight way that a proper way that a person should live? What type of a question is it? What's the proper way? Hari mikra mole dibra kasov. There's full sentences, innumerable places in the Torah that tell what a good way to serve God. The Torah and the commandments. Yesharim darki Hashem. The ways of God are straight through the Torah, right? So what's the question of the Mishnah? What is the proper way that a person should live? The Torah is the proper way. We know. No, we're going to see. Number 2. Nevertheless, there is a question. Number 2. What is the proper way that a person should choose? An Adam, a man. Adam, this is talking about a tremendously high level. Like we said before, we learned in Likkutei Torah, right? Man is the aspect of Shlema the Kula, is the completion of everything. Hakesha the Balamaimer, this is Rebbe. Who was saying this? Rebbeinu HaKodesh. Rebbeinu HaKodesh was to say, we said that he was a candidate to be Mashiach. And it said Rebbeinu HaKodesh, but it doesn't say his name. It doesn't say Rebbe Omar. Rebbe is Rebbeinu HaKodesh. His name was Rebbe Yehuda HaNasi. That was his name. Rebbe Yehuda, the leader. Kafi Shizniskar, like it's mentioned in the Mishnah afterwards. It says, Rebbe Yehuda HaNasi says. He's just called Rebbe. Why is it called Rebbe? So first of all, what's the question? What is the proper way that a person should live? And it says that an Adam should, for Adam, the highest level of a person that he should choose, when he has a question what the highest way is, God. The Torah says, no, the Mishnah has, what is the way that a highest of people should choose? And he gives the answer. Who gives the answer? Rebbe gives the answer. Why doesn't it say his name? Rebbeinu HaKodesh, Rebbe. It says, maybe we can say like this. It continues the saying, talking about the coming of the Mashiach. Rebbe, Rebbeinu HaKodesh, he's the one that said, if the Mashiach comes from those people that live now, then, that his pupils said, If the Mashiach is one that's coming from the living, then it's Rabbeinu HaKodesh. Why? Because he bears all sorts of pains, and he's a big chassid. He's serving God all the time, doing more than he has to. The Avshay chassid Gamor, even though that Rabbeinu HaKodesh was serving God all the time, and he was chassid Gamor, he had completed serving. Right? He is serving all the time. He was learning Torah, doing the commandments. Nevertheless, Sova Chalayim, he suffered terrible diseases. Why? What type of a thing is that? HaChaloim HaGalos, namely, he was suffering the exile, like the Mashiach. That his name is called the leper of the house of Rebbe. Metzora, the leper of the house of Rebbe. That even though that he was in the ultimate completion, he had reached the ultimate completion of man, he was a candidate to be Mashiach. Nevertheless, he suffered terrible sufferings, namely of exile. That's what it means of the Mashiach, that he feels he's not doing anything for himself. He feels the lacking of all the Jewish people. But Tochan, that's what it means. Rebbe says, what is the proper way that a person should choose for himself? Adam, this is talking about Adam Hazeh, this perfect person. There's the highest level of humanity, of Judaism, that all of his deeds are proper, and he's fixed up everything in his personality. All that's left is a little tiny bit of impurity at the end of his garments, it says. That's why he's called a Metzora, why he's called a leper. And it's not even his bad. It's because of the exile, just like Rebbe. That in his generation, that was the last generation, and I'm sorry, and in our generation, the last generation, the Ikvas of the Mashiach, that we've already finished everything, and that we've already finished all the bad, and everything has already been refined. We can say that all the Jewish people that are in this level, says the Rebbe, we've already refined. There's already been the Holocaust. We're reincarnations of the generations that have suffered the worst type of suffering possible. So we've already been purified. So the question is, since that we've already finished and we've already purified ourselves, so now what are we supposed to do? What's the straight way? What's the proper way that we should be acting? That a person should choose, all the Jewish people, that we can just finish all this exile that we've been in. The answer to this is anything which is beautiful to yourself and beautiful to others. Beautiful, this refers to the Torah. The Torah is called Tiferet, beauty. Because of the great highness and the power of the Torah, it can join two opposites, Ratziv V'Shov, going and coming back. The Torah, on one hand, is the essence of God. On the other hand, the Torah is telling us simple things to do in the world. The Torah has the power to unite these highest of highs and the lowest of lows. But not like the sons of Aaron, that they just wanted to be high. They were Adam, but they didn't want to come into the world and purify the world. That the highest lights of godliness now can be drawn down into vessels. That by means of this, we're revealing the true message of exile. The high lights of exile, they're so high that we can't accept it. It seems to us to be bad in a way that's mushlal, that there's no way that there can be exile whatsoever. Galus, Geula, a redemption, that there won't be after it any exile. Maybe we can even add on in even more. Okay, so what's the point? That's what the Rebbe is trying to say. We are a pure generation. We've been purified by all the suffering that Jewish people have been suffering for the last 2,000 years, at least since the temple is destroyed, and even in the time of the temple, they're destroyed. So we've already fixed up all of the sins. We've already fixed up all of the mistakes we made. We've already fixed everything up. Now there's just a little bit of bad that's remaining. That's called the exile that we're here. How are we supposed to fix this up? Says the Rebbe, by means of the Torah. The Torah, Derech Yeshara, how are we going to reveal the actual Mashiach to come and fix everything up? And it says that the Mashiach, there's going to be two things. Number one, he's going to be a king, Melech HaMashiach. And the king is also going to be a teacher, that he's going to come down to the people. A king is above the people. He just orders people and tells them what to do. You can't understand the king. On the other hand, he's going to be a teacher that you're going to have to understand. He wants everyone to understand everything. If so, there's a king, that Mashiach is going to be a king, This indicates on how he's going to affect the people from above. He's going to order them. They're going to have to surrender themselves totally to God. That's one aspect of the Mashiach. That's something like Nadav and Avihu going up to God. But the other thing is that Mashiach is going to be a teacher. Mashiach is going to be a teacher. He's like Moses. He's going to teach all the Jews how to internalize and feel this, all these holy things that we're talking about, that it'll be part of our life. And open panimi by means of learning Torah until that it's as it'll be, the Mashiach will be as though he gave birth to the Jewish people. A new person, all of a sudden, all of our ways of thinking and our paradigms will be totally different. But we'll make this decision on our own. So we can say that joining these two things together, that the king is just going to negate us totally, that we're going to be totally negated to God. And on the other hand, we're going to understand it and we're going to want makif and panini. We'll be enthusiastic. It'll be us doing it, happy. Together, this shows that all the highest lights, which are above being put into any vessels, will be drawn down into vessels in the power of the Torah. And that's the whole idea of acharei mot kadoshim, that the holiness will be revealed in the world. And that's also what Rebbe, the Rebbe said, Rebbe who sees that's the thing of Mashiach, what's the proper way of an Adam? That's our generation, that we're purified. What should we do? Which the most beautiful way? The beauty means joining the highest to the lowest. That's by means of the Torah. Learning the Torah properly with surrender to the Creator, that does some magic will occur. Magic. All of a sudden we'll feel differently. We'll feel like Jews. We'll think like Jews. We'll be happy to be Jews. We'll be happy to see another Jew. We'll be happy to serve the Creator. It'll be something internal. And that's the whole message of Matzorah, Tazria Matzorah, the exile and the redemption, and Acharei Mot Kadoshim, of Nadav and Avihu, and coming into the world, Kadoshim revealing into the world. And that's this thing of Tiferet, of Pirkei Avot, beauty, revealing true beauty of the Creator and of the Jewish people into the creation, so the whole creation becomes beautiful. As we'll continue talking more, God willing, tomorrow. And now let's do the Dvar Malchut. 1 minute, 1 minute. Here we go.